Amazon, Walmart, Wayfair, Jet, House, Overstock. How are you going to compete with these brands? Hello everybody, welcome to Search. This week we will talk about how to plan an e-commerce redesign / rebranding. Now, Joe, this is one of your most favorite topics here because you love to talk about design and branding. And when we work with prospects and clients, one of the most common questions that we receive is about design. Should I do a template design? Should I do a custom design? I don't have my brand guidelines. Should I redesign my site? Should I redo my brand? In your opinion, for an e-commerce business, when does it make sense to do a full scope redesign?
Again, I think going back, what you need to identify is what type of e-commerce store are you, right? Are you a reseller or are you in fact a true brand, meaning you're selling your own unique products? Because now your plan of action moving forward with either brand guidelines or even going into a new website design is going to take a completely different course. So first, identify, are you a reseller? Or are you a true brand? So now once you've already identified that, now you can move forward and say, what's my next step? So step number one, regardless of whether you're a true brand or regardless of whether you're a reseller, you still need to have a solid set of brand guidelines. You're still going to have a logo, color scheme, font selection that needs to be consistent throughout the entire site.
Got it. So how I would put that in, and again, Joe is saying it with all the pretty words. How I would say it is, look, if you're doing a couple of $1 million in annual revenue, you are going to need to become a brand. And just think about it from this standpoint. Amazon, Walmart, Wayfair, Jet, House, Overstock. How are you going to compete with these brands? If you think that these brands are not your competitors, you got to think again. Because search for any home appliance on Google search results, and you're going to get these brands showing up. eBay is right there as well. We thought that eBay was going to die out and they're still there. These are brands. These are known brands. One of the most effective ways that you can represent your brand online is to have a good design, good UI element, conversion elements, etc., etc. Now, let's organize this, Joe, because we're talking about a lot of stuff. So if you're doing a couple of $1 million, what would you say? You need to have a brand guidelines document, correct?
Absolutely.
And then the second thing you need to look at is you need to look at your core demographic. You need to see if your design supports what that core demographic needs. For example, and this is where we merge functionality into design. If you are a B2B business and if you see that most of your customers purchase 10 or more items, you better have a multi-add to cart functionality on your category pages. And we can just talk about this all day long. But the design needs to support functionality and functionality needs to support design. Now, Joe, when we talk about custom, let's talk about custom design. Somebody comes to us, they're saying, we're doing a couple of $1 million and this has happened multiple times. We grew so fast, we never even paid attention to design. Now we're going to do a redesign and now we need those brand guidelines. How would you do a custom redesign on an e-commerce website?
What we need are mock-ups of the core sections of an e-commerce site, which are the home page, category page, product page, and checkout. So once we get those mock-ups done, and the mock-ups are either done in Photoshop or Figma, we'll go ahead and we'll review with the client to get their feedback. And again, there's going to be some revisions, a couple different rounds of revisions, a lot of back and forth when it comes to the design. However, one important thing is to trust your partner, trust your agency partner, especially when it comes to e-commerce, because we're not thinking about what looks pretty all the time. We're looking at what converts all the time. So that's where there's a lot of back and forth when it comes to working with clients with design, especially when you're going into the really heavily branded type of clients out there that really revolve around their brand, right? We're not thinking so much about the way that your brand's tone of voice is as much as what your customers will actually click, how they will navigate, and how they will complete a purchase. So once we go through these design revisions, then we go into the actual development of the design. And that's where, like Duran said, all the functionality comes into play and how it's incorporated within the design.
Here's the trick though. There's a thin line, right? Here you're a huge brand. Here you're a loser, right? So what does that mean? What does being a loser with design mean? You're so stuck with the idea of a brand and design and the representation of that brand that you don't see anything else on the website. You just want it to look pretty and beautiful, and you want people to come to a site and they say, wow, right? But it's not going to convert. So the difference between that thin line is you can have a 0.5% conversion rate and have a beautiful wow website. We're talking about e-commerce. Or you can have a 5%, 6%, 7% conversion rate and have a design that doesn't wow people, but it's clean and it's simplified. So I will take the latter every single time.
Absolutely. And we see that a lot where the bigger the brand you are, the more leeway you have to go after that wow factor and to be a little bit, more creative with the design. Because again, you're already a huge, well-established brand, and you know that people are going to buy from you anyways, right? They will go through the hassle through navigating through your site, look at the cool features, and then end up purchasing. Whereas if you're trying to now scale your brand, you cannot go out of the gates with a website that is difficult for people to actually complete a purchase.
So for e-commerce, we're not talking about service-based businesses. For e-commerce, just look at how fast Amazon loads, right? They are not in the business of wowing people. They have wowed people with their stock price. They have wowed people with their functionality. They were the first ones to come out with the search and filter functionality. They were the first ones to come out with the Prime, and they were the first ones to actually have a website that's so functional. Not to forget the fact that their app is basically used on a daily basis by millions and millions of people. So again, don't forget that thin line between functionality and design. So once you have these mock-ups and you do the revisions with your agency or with your designer, what you're going to look at is you're going to look at an implementation. Then we start talking about functionality. Do you need advanced search and filter? Do you need multi-add to cart? And we've built over 700 custom functionalities for platforms like BigCommerce, Shopify, Evolution, 3D Cart, Magento, Miva, and enterprise solutions as well, like Episerver and Vtex. So that conversation for functionality, however, needs to be planned at the beginning of the project, but executed right after when you have your firm mockups. And mockups, unfortunately, most clients and prospects don't understand this, but mockup allows you to see that visual element before it's actually implemented onto the site as HTML and CSS.
Well, I just wanted to mention one thing. So in the very beginning, Duran mentioned you need to understand the demographic in order to create the right design. Furthermore, you have your analytics, you have your Google Analytics, you know where the majority of your traffic is coming from. Are they coming in on a mobile device or are they coming in on desktop? Right? Design for where the majority of your clients are coming from first. Meaning a lot of big companies that do web design, they will do web mockups and then at the end they'll make it responsive for mobile. Right? However, if over 80% of your traffic is coming from a mobile device and that's where you're getting your conversions, design for mobile first and then worry about desktop after.
So only do a full redesign for your e-commerce website if it warrants it. Don't spend a lot of money and waste time on design if your conversion rates are great, and only if you are truly trying to be a brand. And when we say if you're trying to be a brand, we're looking at 5, 6, 7, 10, 15, $20 million businesses where you need to compete with people who might be doing 50, 60, $100 million, right? That's when you need a really powerful design. Do not exchange a good design for page speed. It's very important that you simplify things. You don't need to have different design elements flying around on the home page. Remember, simple is good. Look at Amazon. We'll talk to you guys next week.